Amara Lewis was 32 years old, elbow deep in a dumpster behind a foreclosed mansion in Redmond, Washington, when her life changed forever. Her jeans were torn, her hands blackened with grime, and a broken chair leg leaned against the bin beside her. A voice startled her. "Excuse me, are you Amara Lewis?" She turned to see a woman in a navy designer suit, heels clicking against the pavement. Amara hesitated, suspicious. "Who's asking?" "Victoria Chen," the woman said gently. "I'm an attorney. You've just inherited $47 million. Amara blinked, unsure she'd heard correctly. 3 months earlier, she had been homeless, sleeping in her car behind a Safeway. Her ex-husband's words still haunted her. "Nobody's going to want a broke, homeless woman like you." 3 months earlier, Amara's life had been painfully ordinary. She'd lived in suburban Seattle with her husband, Daniel Lewis, a charming entrepreneur who preferred control to love. She'd graduated from the University of Washington with a degree in architecture, her senior project earning first prize for sustainable design. Her uncle, Theodore, had been her biggest supporter. "You're going to change the world," he had told her proudly. "Next year, you'll join my firm in New York. We'll make history together." But Daniel had overheard that conversation, and from that day, Amara's life began to change direction. Daniel was everything her 21-year-old self thought she wanted: confident, successful, and magnetic. Within 6 months, they were engaged. Within 8, married. When Uncle Theodore refused to attend the wedding, she'd been furious. "You're making a mistake," he'd warned her on the phone. "That man doesn't want a partner. He wants a trophy." Amara's voice had trembled with youthful arrogance. "You're just jealous I'm choosing my own path." His reply had been quiet and devastating. "No, Amara. I'm heartbroken because you're throwing away everything you worked for." Those were the last words he ever said to her. At first, marriage felt like security. Daniel urged her not to rush into work. "Relax," he'd say, kissing her forehead. "You don't need to stress about money." But soon, relax turned into don't bother, and take time became you're wasting time. He discouraged her from taking her licensing exam. When she tried freelancing, he sabotaged her with sudden trips and unexpected guests. "It's just a hobby," he'd say dismissively. "Focus on the house." Eventually, Amara stopped designing altogether, except in secret. When Daniel traveled, she filled notebooks with sketches and dreams no one would ever see. The final straw came when Amara discovered Daniel's affair with his 24-year-old secretary. The divorce was brutal. Daniel's expensive lawyers tore through her limited defenses, and the prenuptial agreement ensured she left with nothing. No house, no savings, just a suitcase and a broken heart. "Good luck finding someone who wants damaged goods," Daniel had sneered as she walked out. For months, she survived by scavenging abandoned furniture, repairing what she could, and selling it online. Each sale bought another day of survival. She showered at a 24-hour gym, slept in her car, and told herself it was temporary. She just didn't know how temporary. When Victoria Chen approached her that morning, Amara didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "There must be some mistake," she said. "My uncle disowned me 10 years ago." Victoria's expression softened. "He never removed you from his will, Ms. Lewis. You were always his sole beneficiary." Amara blinked, speechless. "But why now?" "Because he passed away last month," Victoria replied quietly. "And he left you everything." The words hit like thunder. Theodore Hartfield, her late uncle, the man who'd raised her after her parents' death, had left her the empire she once turned her back on. As the Mercedes glided toward Seattle, Amara stared out the window, numb. "You said there's a condition," she murmured. Victoria nodded. "Yes. To receive the inheritance, you must take over as CEO of Hartfield Architecture within 30 days and hold that position for at least 1 year. If you fail or refuse, everything transfers to the American Institute of Architects." Amara laughed bitterly. "I haven't worked as an architect for 10 years. My husband thought my degree was a cute hobby." "Then this," Victoria said softly, "is your second chance." The Manhattan brownstone took Amara's breath away. Margaret, Theodore's longtime housekeeper, stood at the door, her silver hair glinting under the foyer lights. "Miss Lewis," she said warmly, her voice trembling, "welcome home." Amara froze, stunned by the familiarity in those words. "You remember me?" "Of course. I took care of you after your parents died," Margaret said, eyes misting. "Your uncle never stopped hoping you'd come back. He had the 5th floor converted into a studio for you 8 years ago." Amara's heart ached. 8 years ago? But we weren't even speaking. "He believed you'd find your way back," Margaret whispered. The studio felt like a time capsule of love and regret. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the West Village skyline. Drafting tables stood waiting beside shelves of untouched supplies. On one wall, Amara's college exhibition sketch, her award-winning Sustainable Community Center, hung framed. She touched the glass, her tears spilling freely. "He kept this all these years," she murmured. Margaret smiled softly. "He said you'd return when you were ready to build again." That night, Amara sat alone beneath the skylight, tracing her own faded lines and whispering to the ghost of her uncle, "I'm sorry I took so long." The next morning, she walked into the boardroom of Hartfield Architecture. 8 partners sat around the long glass table, eyes sharp and cold. The senior member, Edward Carmichael, leaned back with a smirk. "With all due respect, Miss Lewis, you've never worked a day in this firm. This appointment makes a mockery of Theodore's legacy." Amara met his gaze calmly. "You're right. I've never worked here, but I've spent 10 years designing in silence." She set a notebook on the table. "These are my designs, 17 volumes worth. Every page proof that I never stopped learning." Carmichael flipped through the notebook skeptically. "Pretty sketches don't make a CEO." Another partner, Patricia Grant, interjected. "Still, they show vision. Theodore valued that above all else." Amara leaned forward. "I don't claim to know everything, but I know how to build. And I know how to lead, with help from those who share the same purpose." She turned to Jacob Sterling, a respected senior architect who'd been silent until then. "Mr. Sterling, I'd like your guidance as we move forward." Jacob studied her for a moment, then nodded slightly. "You'll have it," he said. The tension in the room shifted. 2 weeks later came her first trial, the Anderson Project. A $400 million headquarters for a Seattle tech magnate. It was the kind of job that could define her leadership or destroy it. Amara worked tirelessly with the engineering team, blending sustainable innovation with artistic form. But the morning of the presentation, she found her laptop missing. Moments later, Carmichael appeared, holding it casually. "Found this in the break room," he said. When she opened it, horror struck. Her presentation file was corrupted, slides scrambled, renderings gone. It was sabotage, deliberate and cruel. Jacob's voice was low. "We can delay the meeting." Amara shook her head.
"No."
"We go in now." When the billionaire client arrived, she greeted him with steady poise. "Mr. Anderson," she began, closing the laptop. "You asked for a building that tells a story. Let me tell you that story." She moved to the whiteboard and began sketching. "Your headquarters will breathe. It will collect rainwater, optimize sunlight, and live in harmony with the Cascade Mountains that inspired its form." Her hands moved confidently, lines dancing into a vision. The room fell silent. For 45 minutes, she drew, explained, and transformed the blank board into a masterpiece of form and purpose. "This pattern," she said, pointing to the facade, "is generated by Seattle's rainfall data, turning weather into art." When she finished, her voice softened. "This is not just architecture, Mr. Anderson. It's a living system." The billionaire stood, studying the sketches. "This," he said slowly, "is exactly what I wanted." "When can you start?" Jacob exhaled in relief. As soon as the client left, he turned to her. "That was incredible. But someone tried to ruin you." Amara nodded. "And failed." That evening, she called an emergency board meeting. Victoria attended as legal counsel. The IT department's findings were clear. The files had been accessed from Carmichael's computer. "Is there any explanation?" Victoria asked coolly. Carmichael's silence was answer enough. The next morning, he resigned, selling his 30% stake to the firm. The headline in Architectural Digest read, "New CEO of Hartfield Architecture wins landmark deal in first month." Amara stared at the article, both proud and terrified. "I'm doing this, Uncle," she whispered to herself. "I'm really doing this." A week later, Margaret entered Amara's study, holding a leather-bound journal. "Your uncle kept this behind his architecture books," she said softly. Amara opened it, hands trembling. The pages were filled with Theodore's neat handwriting. One entry read, March 15th, 10 years ago. Amara married Daniel today. I couldn't attend. I'm heartbroken, but I can't watch her walk into a cage with her eyes open. Her tears smudged the ink as she turned the pages. Another entry, 8 years ago, read, Started building the studio today. I need to believe she'll come home. The final entry was dated 8 weeks before Theodore's death. I'm dying faster than expected, but I'm content. Victoria will find her. The rest is up to her. Whether she takes the challenge or not, she'll finally be free. That's all I ever wanted. Amara closed the journal and pressed it to her chest. For years, she had felt abandoned. Now she understood. It wasn't rejection. It was love that waited in silence. Months passed. Under Amara's leadership, Hartfield Architecture began to thrive again. She launched the Hartfield Fellowship, a program for underprivileged students passionate about sustainable design. From over 300 applicants, 12 were chosen. One of them, a shy 22-year-old named Emma Rodriguez, said nervously, "My family wanted me to be a nurse. They said architecture was a nice hobby." Amara smiled knowingly. "Let me guess, they thought passion doesn't pay the bills?" Emma nodded. "Then prove them wrong," Amara said. "Dreamers build the world." Emma's talent shone immediately. Her proposal for a homeless shelter with community gardens drew attention from a Brooklyn nonprofit. "They want Hartfield to lead the project, with you as the primary designer," Amara told her. Emma's eyes widened. "Me? I'm just a student." "So was I once," Amara said. "And someone believed in me. Now it's your turn." Watching Emma's joy reminded Amara of the girl she used to be, the one who believed buildings could heal broken cities. 6 months later, Marcus Chun, CEO of a rival firm, requested a private meeting. "You've revived Hartfield's reputation," he said smoothly. "I'd like to make an offer, $300 million for full acquisition." The board was stunned. Patricia turned to Amara. "The decision is yours. You hold 51% ownership." Amara didn't hesitate. "No," the word was calm but firm. "Hartfield was never for sale." Marcus frowned. "That's a mistake." Amara smiled. "Maybe, but some legacies can't be bought." After the meeting, Patricia approached her with a small velvet box. "Theodore anticipated this," she said. Inside was a ring, engraved with miniature architectural blueprints. "He left this in a separate trust, unlocked only if you rejected a major offer. There's also $30 million to continue his legacy." A note lay beneath it, written in Theodore's hand. "Build bravely, live boldly, and never let anyone make you small again." Amara held the ring close, whispering, "I won't." Jacob found her later that evening in the studio, surrounded by sketches. "You okay?" he asked gently. She smiled through tears. "I think I finally understand what my uncle wanted." Jacob stepped closer, pulling a small box from his pocket. "Then maybe it's time I ask what I want." Amara froze as he opened it, a diamond ring glinting under the studio lights. "Amara Lewis," he said softly, "I'm not asking because of your title or your success. I'm asking because I want a lifetime of watching you change the world. Will you marry me?" Amara's tears spilled freely. "Yes," she whispered, then louder. "Absolutely yes." They kissed amid the blueprints, surrounded by the echoes of Theodore's dream. 18 months after that night behind the dumpster, Amara walked down the aisle in the rooftop garden her uncle had built. Patricia held her arm. Margaret arranged her veil. Jacob's vows were simple. You taught me that partnership means celebrating strength, not controlling it. I promise to always see you, challenge you, and believe in the impossible. Amara's voice trembled as she spoke her vows. Jacob, 18 months ago, I thought I was broken. You proved I was never broken, just waiting for someone who saw light in my cracks. Their guests wept as they exchanged rings under the city skyline. The same hands that once searched through dumpsters now built a future of steel and love. With the additional trust, Amara launched a nationwide initiative, Public Spaces for All. We'll design libraries, parks, and community centers, she told her team. Places where everyone, regardless of wealth, can feel seen. The first project broke ground in Philadelphia, a community library designed by Emma Rodriguez, now a lead architect at 24. You did it, Emma said tearfully at the opening ceremony. No, Amara replied, smiling. We did. 5 years after taking over Hartfield Architecture, Amara stood on the stage of her alma mater, delivering the commencement address. When I graduated, she said, I thought I knew my future, but I gave it away to someone who needed me small. For 10 years, I disappeared. But here's the truth. You never really lose yourself. You just misplace yourself for a while. Your true self waits patiently until you're brave enough to return. Her words echoed through the auditorium. Students wiped tears. Professors smiled proudly. If anyone tells you your dream is a hobby, she continued, remember, every building, bridge, and city once started as someone's impossible dream. Be the one who refuses to shrink. That evening, back at the Manhattan brownstone, Jacob was sketching designs for a children's museum in Detroit. Margaret called from the kitchen. Dinner's ready. The smell of rosemary chicken filled the air. Amara walked onto the rooftop garden, where Theodore's favorite flowers still bloomed. The skyline shimmered under a gold sunset. You kept your promise, she whispered to the wind. I came home. She thought about the woman who'd once climbed out of a dumpster, filthy, lost, and hopeless. That woman had no idea she would one day run a global architecture firm, inspire students, and find love again. Amara smiled, tears glistening. You were never broken, she whispered to her reflection in the glass. You just needed time to remember who you were. As night fell, she stood at the rooftop railing, the city lights flickering like stars below. If you're hearing this, she said softly, imagining her words carried beyond the skyline, and you've ever felt small, dismissed, or forgotten, remember this. You are already everything you need to be. You just have to remember. The wind brushed her face like Theodore's final blessing, and for the first time in years, Amara felt completely whole.